Okay, take number 4, and I have actually turned my mic on this time, so that's always helpful. This is the broken news, and I wanted to talk about something that I've been talking about since 1990. Way back in 1990, people were making lots of predictions about the future, auspicious dates like the year 2000, the year 2001, 2010, and 2020. And around 2001 to 2010, there were a lot of predictions like flying cars and things. You know, the stuff that most people would predict about the future. And then the things that no one wanted to pay attention to that I had been paying attention to. I grew up in the 70s, Earth Day, 1970, so I pretty much have always been exposed to this let's not destroy the Earth idea. Let's do something to save the Earth. And I've watched by and large people do nothing, and if they've done anything, it's made things worse. So my hopes of the predictions for 2020 not coming true, it seemed like they were absolutely going to come true, and they were going to come true with a vengeance. Things like more frequent hurricanes that are more intense, flooding all over the place, drought all over the place, fire all over the place, ice melting all over the place, oceans changing, just everything that's happening right now that you read in the paper every day is coming true. And there were predictions for after 2020, which will make this year, which seems awful, probably the worst one in our lives for a lot of people, it's going to make this year seem like the best one of this decade. So brace yourselves. It's starting. And it's starting in Mexico, and it started actually a little while back. And it's happening here where I live, where we're running into a water shortage. In Mexico, they depend on the rivers because that's how they irrigate their crops. Everyone lives by the rivers. Their farms are by the rivers. That's pretty much the life. So if there's no water flowing in the rivers, there's no life in Mexico. Here's a report from CBS. No. I'm sorry. I canceled that one on my first or second try with no mic on. I finally picked a different one, a different video, because I ended up erasing it. It was just a long story. I wasn't going to make this video, but I was like, you know what, this is important, and I shouldn't let a little bit of frustration and technical difficulties get in the way of people dying from not having any water and watching their livelihoods go down the tubes forever. So I thought I would just push through and make this video. So we're going to listen to this and see what we think. If I can get it started sometime today.
Cape is in the state of Chihuahua in northern Mexico, just south of the U.S. border. It hasn't rained much lately, and many here are concerned that crops and livestock are under threat. Farmers like Raul Garcia tell us what little water remains in the region is about to be given to the United States under a water-sharing treaty signed between the two countries during World War II.
These are water reserves that we have collected. We have restrained from harvesting more than one crop per year in order to subsist and not run out of water. Now the government shows up and says they have to pay the United States. It isn't true.
The issue of water is a boiling hot topic in this part of the country, and protests against the decades-old water treaty have been growing more and more violent in recent weeks.
It's a reaction from citizens who are defending their homeland. Water is everyone's heritage. Water doesn't belong to anyone. Water is for everyone in Chihuahua, for all Mexicans. That is why we're outraged, and this reaction from citizens is the result of this anger.
When the U.S. and Mexico signed the Water Treaty of 1944, the United States agreed to send more water to Mexico than it receives, but it still requires Mexico to release water from dams along some of the driest parts of the border. At La Boquilla Dam, the largest in the state of Chihuahua, Mexican National Guard troops are keeping watch. Farmers recently seized control of the dam and have attacked members of Mexico's National Water Commission, who plan to extract water from the reservoir. Mexico has until October 26th of this year to pay off its water debt with the United States. which amounts to some 100 billion gallons of fresh water. Mexico's president has addressed the recent violence, but claims water reserves in Chihuahua are enough to pay both the water debt to the U.S. and supply the needs of farmers in the region. The president has also suggested the conflict is politically motivated.
They took over La Boquilla Dam, which was being used to follow through with our commitment to deliver water to the United States under the Treaty of 1944. But since there are electoral interests, this has become a political issue.
As the drought in northern Mexico worsens, a growing number of supporters are joining in the protests against the treaty. The hopes are fading for a solution that will guarantee farmers access to the water they say is essential to their survival.
Yeah, see, there are protests going on down there. Now, this was predicted too. There'd be protests over water shortages as the climate changed and regions that are accustomed, have a lifestyle of regular water, are going to be unwilling to adjust to a lifestyle of having to live in a desert with camels and stuff. So that's going to be interesting. The people are down there protesting because the government, the Mexican government really can't do anything. Trump's not going to help them. They're not friends. So even if the Mexican government asked, hey, can we cut back on the amount of water that we send into this from the treaty, it's not going to land. It's going to land on deaf ears, and then it's not even going to make a blip in the news. You know what makes a blip? Well, the same thing that makes a blip here. You light stuff on fire and you break things and you cause a big ruckus and you take over stuff, and then your neighbors and everybody else starts paying attention, and that's what we have here. So I hope that we can work something out. 1944 is a long time ago. My dad was born in 1943, so it's a really long time ago. Sorry, Pop, you were born a really long time ago by most people's standards. It's 2020. We need to, the climate changed, everything has changed. Though that agreement was built on an environment that doesn't even exist now. So definitely have to go back to the drawing board on that one, and I hope that maybe some president in the near future, before these people are dead, you might as well forget about a harvest. Anything from Mexico, any fresh produce from Mexico is going to cost an exorbitant amount of money. So by the time it hits the shelves and the sticker shock hits the wealthier class in the U.S., then someone might say something. Well, by then it's going to be way too late. So I just hope that this makes its way up and people can see that the farmers down in Chihuahua, Mexico, and in other places are really suffering. If there's anything that we can do to help them, then we really need to do that. It's just the humanitarian thing to do. I mean, we'll wage wars in 7 different countries on the other side of the planet for humanitarian reasons, and then we're going to let our neighbors just die from thirst because they have to pay us water like we're some kind of, greasy mobster. Holy shitballs. What's going on with this world? Can we give these people some water? Is that too much to ask? Wow, the news is broken.